Hey everyone, this is going to be for chapter 6, the visual system, and really just focusing in on how we see. So we're going to explore how light, the eye, and the brain work together to allow us to perceive the world around us. So the first thing we need to look at is what exactly is light? Light behaves both as particles, called photons, and as waves of electromagnetic energy. Photons move incredibly fast. It's about 300,000 kilometers per second. Now, the part of the electromagnetic spectrum that humans can see is between 380 and 760 nanometers. There's some animals out there like rattlesnakes, for example, that can detect infrared waves. But we, as humans, we really only rely on this narrow range of visible light to see our surroundings. So when light enters our eyes, it first passes through the pupil. That's the dark circle in the middle of your eye, which is controlled by the iris. The iris adjusts the size of the pupil depending on the light available. So in bright light, the pupils constrict to protect your eyes and sharpen focus, and in dim light, they expand to let in as much light as possible. And then that improves sensitivity, but sacrifices clarity. When we look at behind the pupil, you'll see the lens. This focuses light onto the retina at the back of the eye. This process is called accommodation. So when you focus on something close, the lens becomes more rounded so that it can bend the light properly. And then when you look at something far away, the lens flattens. So it's a constant adjustment that allows us to see both near and far. All right, now let's talk about the retina. So the retina is the light sensitive layer at the back of the eye. It's made up of two types of photoreceptors. These are called rods and cones. Cones work best in bright light and allow us to see fine details and colors, while the rods are more sensitive to low light and help us see in dim conditions, but only in black and white. The fova is a small indentation in the retina. This part of the eye is packed with cones and is the area responsible for sharp, detailed vision. However, it has no rods, which is why in low light, our detailed central vision kind of fades, and then we end up having to rely more on our peripheral vision where rods dominate. Okay, let's get into why we have two eyes. Well, it gives us the ability to perceive depth. So each eye views the world from a slightly different angle. This slight difference is known as binocular disparity, but it helps our brains combine the two images into a single three-dimensional perception. And once the light hits the retina and is converted into a neural signal, these signals travel along the optic nerves to the brain, specifically to the primary visual cortex, where they are then processed into images. Most of this visual information follows a pathway called the retina geniculate striate pathway, which carries signals from both eyes to the brain's visual centers. Interestingly, our visual system isn't equally sensitive to all wavelengths of light. So under bright condition, our photopic or cone-mediated vision is most sensitive to greenish yellow light at about 560 nanometers. However, in dim lighting, scotopic or rod-mediated vision takes over and is more sensitive to bluish light at around 500 nanometers. This shift is called the Purkinje effect. You ever notice how blue objects seem to stand out at dusk? Well, that's your scotopic vision at work. Now, let's talk about a critical molecule in night vision, rhodopsin. Found in rods, rhodopsin changes when exposed to light. In the dark, rhodopsin helps rods remain sensitive. When light hits it, rhodopsin breaks down. And then this starts a chemical reaction that sends signals to the brain, allowing us to see in low light. So how does all of this information get processed? You've got signals from the eyes that travel to the brain's visual cortex where they're interpreted. The brain processes different aspects of vision, like color, movement, and depth, in specialized areas. These processes are so intricate that damage to specific regions can lead to fascinating phenomena. One of these examples in the book is something called blind sight, where people with damage to the visual cortex can respond to visual stimuli without being consciously aware of seeing them. Okay, to sum up this brief video on the visual system, so vision depends on light reflecting into your eyes. The retina contains rods and cones that process light and color differently. Two eyes provide depth perception through binocular disparity, and then visual signals travel through complex pathways to the brain where they're processed into the rich, detailed images that we see. So, our visual system is remarkable. It's constantly adjusting to light and it's extracting like key details to help us navigate the world. I really appreciate you for watching this really brief, short lecture video on the visual system. Thank you so much, and I hope that this gives you a new appreciation for how your eyes and brain work together to kind of create the world that you see.